Hi everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative. Today we're going to do something a little different. You know me, I like doing things differently. I have come across a new product by Folkart called Velvet Crush. There are two components to doing this. You have one, I'll call it a paint, but it's actually called a tinted adhesive. And the other part of this is the flocking powder. I got this at Michael's. I had been in there a while ago. Don't spend near as much time in Michael's as I used to back in the day. However, having said that, and I came across this, and it was in one of their shelves at one of the end of the aisles, and I'm kind of looking at it and going, I have no idea what the point of any of this is. So I kind of looked at it, and then I went by. But I've come back across it now, so I thought, well, I want to try this out. The basics of this are that it's meant to put a sort of a velvety finish on pieces you're working with. And we're going to do some pieces so you can get a sense of what it does and, decide if you wanted it for yourself. Currently, right now, Michael's Canada anyway, and I'm guessing in the States as well, has this on sale. They originally here in Canada were selling them for $13 for the kit. It's now down to $7. I've got 4 colors right now. I'm one of these people who likes to get all the colors, so I've got some more that I'm going to be picking up in the next couple of days. So the long and short of this is that, and unfortunately being on camera, but it gives a bit of a velvety feel to the back of it. It's a coating on it. The red, you might be able to see a little bit better. When I first got this and tried it out, I was a little concerned about whether or not this velvet crush stuff, and I don't know how well I'm going to be able to show you. You'll get a better sense of it. It's a powder, and I have no idea what this stuff is made out of. You'll get more of a sense of it once we get into this video a little bit and we get to the point of putting this on. So the idea is to give it a velvety feel and, sort of change the coloring, not change the coloring, that's not what I want to say, but give it a velvety feel. So this got me thinking about pieces that I do that are put onto tables. So one of my concerns has been with, the resin pieces I make, or even the ceramic resin pieces I make, that if I put them on a table, that they're going to stick. I think of in the summertime when it gets really hot in my house, or, even if I've sold something to somebody and it gets really hot, you don't want your pieces sticking to whatever it is the item is sitting on. So I have some wood tables upstairs, I have glass tables upstairs, and as much as I, put a coat of UV resin on, it gets warm. And there is, for me, the potential that I can get concerned that, things are going to stick. On my glass, am I as concerned? Not as much as I would be on a wood piece, but I still don't like the idea. And I know some people put, backings on their pieces, or they put cork on their pieces. Depending on where you're going to be using it, it's sort of an irrelevant type of thing. But I thought what we would do is I would take you through the process of applying this, just so you could see if it was something you might want to try out, whether you thought it was a good idea or not, whether it's an issue for you, whether or not you put anything on the bottom. But I thought from a dressing it up perspective, it might be nice to have something like this to use on, the creative pieces you're making. So I have 3 things here to, potentially work with. One is this resin piece, which you all saw me make a while ago. I have this piece, which, based on the weight of it and the color of it, would have been made with plaster of Paris, that we can try it out on there. This has had absolutely nothing done to it, so I think it's kind of a good indicator on how this is going to work on it. And then I have one of my pot angels. I shouldn't say it like that, should I? One of my flower pot angel pieces. And it has had nothing done on the bottom of it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I have sealed it. So this is another good thing that we can do a test on to see how it's going to work. So from my perspective, it's just having a nice end to it so that it's just, I don't know, more professional. And I want to point out that I think it's really important. So when I did this initially, you're ending up putting 2 coats of the adhesive on your piece, and then you're sprinkling. If anyone's worked with embossing powder, it's sort of similar to that as far as how you apply it. Okay. When I initially had done, especially this red piece, and I don't think you're going to be able to notice, but sort of through the center here, it's not as dense as it is on the outside. And that concerned me because I thought, well, I don't want to be using something that's going to easily brush off. My mistake for not letting this sit long enough. It doesn't really tell you how long to let it overall sit for before you actually touch it. And I found that if I waited a day, which is what I had done with this one, is that sorry, when you brush your hand on it, nothing's coming off on your finger, which is important for you to know. So I kind of learned as I was going along. So what we're going to do is I thought green would be the perfect color for all 3 pieces. And the very first thing we are going to do is we are going to apply a coat of the adhesive. And what you're supposed to do is, and I might as well read you the directions. So tinted adhesive to use with flocking powder to create a real velvety soft texture. Apply tinted adhesive as a base coat. Allow to dry 1 hour. Apply second coat of adhesive. Clean while wet with soap and water. Step 2, then follow instructions on the flocking powder. So when they say clean up, I would say that's just if you've gotten it on places you don't want. So if you've gotten it around the side, or maybe, just clean up your paintbrushes and whatnot. I think that's what they're referring to as far as, make sure you clean up before it actually sets and before you apply your flock in the second. Well, technically it'll be the 3rd step of this, right? Because we're going to do 2 of this to 1 of these. Okay, so I've shaken it up a little bit already, so I'll just shake it a little bit more. I'm one of these, well, I don't know if anyone else does it. I just take lids off of things like this and then usually use up what's in the cap and then go into the bottle. It just makes it that I don't have to clean anything up, like as far as a pot goes. So let's apply this just like you would, just apply it. There's really no rhyme or reason. And I'm thinking maybe they get you to do a second coat just so that you can't see through it, and maybe it's to help with the adhesion. I'm not sure why, but I'm going to go with the basis of it so that you can't see. Because I mean, this orange, if I only did it once and put the flock on, then there's a definite possibility that you're going to see the orange through it. And they don't say anything about how thick you're supposed to put this on, so when I've done it, I've just put it on to cover the piece. And that's pretty much been it. And I like to try and smooth it out. Okay, so that's that done. I've got all kinds of streaks in this. This paintbrush may not be my best ideal use, and it's a little hard, but. And I'm wondering too if the reason they have you put down a second coat is just in case, because this is going to soak this up, is if you have something that will soak up and I want to get into those little holes as well. This was when I was playing last year between ceramic resin and plaster of Paris, just to see if I could make stuff that wasn't going to be as expensive, because I was using J. Diction at the time, and I have found that it's a little more expensive than the mix to mold. And the one thing I'm going to tip I'm going to give you is make sure that your paintbrush doesn't go off the side like I've done there. You could tape it up. I don't really care about this piece. I just thought it would be a good piece to work with. I had all kinds of air bubbles, which I don't like in the bottom of this. I maybe should have sanded this down first, but that's okay. So I might work on, get that back in camera, might work on filling those holes in once I stop this video, well, this part of the video. And I just thought it would be helpful to do this on, you know, both something that's been done with the ceramic resin and has, you know, a different coating on it. I hate when I go over the edges. That's probably why they say clean it up before. Oh my gosh, I'm really doing a job on this one, aren't I? I'm really gonna have to clean this up. I'm getting this stuff everywhere that I don't want to get it. So yeah, be aware of what you're doing and get it cleaned up before it sets. Okay, I'm gonna have to get one of my wet wipes out and clean up the sides of this, because I think I'm usually pretty good, but I really went over the inches of this. So hopefully I can do it without. And how many colors have they got? I think I'm going to say 10 colors. Wet wipes, beautiful things. Brilliant, the person who created them. And then be careful when you're wiping that you don't end up putting paint in other places that you don't want them. All right, so we've got that on there now. I think I've got, I'm gonna try and do it this way. I've got the most of the stuff off the side, so that's great. So we'll put these down. I'm gonna time this. I will come back when the hour is up. So I'm trying to figure out where the heck to put that. I'll see about getting into the holes of that, because I want to cover, even though I've gone up on the sides, because I can always paint over that, just so we can see it. So when this has had an hour to sit, we will come back and then we'll put another coat on it, throw the flocks on it, and then what we'll do is we'll wait 24 hours to come back and just test to make sure that, you know, none of it's coming off. So I'll see you in about an hour. Let's move on. Just a quick tip for you in case you're doing a piece like this. I did fill in some of the holes. I put some of the paint in. However, I noticed when I was doing that, and I ended up using one of these small micro brushes, was that there was still some of the, I guess, remnants, or the bottom hadn't been cleaned out. Like some of these holes hadn't been cleaned out well enough. When I went to put the paint in, I was pulling out some of the plaster of Paris. If you're going to do something like this and it does have the holes and whatnot in it, I would recommend that you make sure that those are well cleaned out before you start putting your product on top, so that you don't end up making a mess, sort of like I did. I had to keep wiping my micro brush on here in order to, sort of get the stuff that was, collecting on my micro brush out. So that's just a tip for you if you want. Okay, so let's do this, and we'll do one at a time. Actually, maybe I'll start with that one. So I have a piece of paper that I'm going to use in order to put the flocks on my piece, and then I'll be able to get, if they're leftovers, you can put them right back in the container. That's what I'm trying to say. And when I done it the second time, I had actually left the flocks on for a little bit, and then once, I don't know, I'm trying to think if I'd left it on for the 24 hours, if I had taken it off. I don't think I took it off straight away, but I can't remember the timeline between. So maybe what we'll do is we'll put the product on, we'll put the second coat of the adhesive on, we'll put the flocks on these guys, And then after an hour or so, I'll knock maybe some of it off of one and not the other and let it sit for 24 hours so we can get a better idea of if it's better to just leave, you know, whatever ends up being on here, or if, you know, knocking it off. Now, because this is one of the bigger pieces, well, these are probably similar. I want to make sure I have enough of the actual velvet product to put on here. So if I have to knock off, I have to knock some off. So, yeah, it doesn't say anything about I kind of wish, and maybe once we do it, we'll have a quick look or review of the other bottle and what I'm supposed to do. So we'll just get this painted very carefully this time, trying not to. And I don't want a lot. I didn't find I needed a lot of this. I'm just trying to be really careful around this piece this time so I don't end up getting it in places I don't want it. Like I'm doing. Oh well. That's why they say to wipe it up before you do anything else. Put that down there where I don't care. This is where you get your no sound out of me as I try and do this without making too much of a mess. So what's the weather like in your part of the world? Here in Ontario, it's been interesting. Hot one day, cold the next. Okay, and the adhesive. So, while the second coat of adhesive is wet, squeeze bottle to apply flocks, allow to dry for 1 hour, shake off excess power and reclaim into bottle. For decorative indoor use only. So, I think when I did it the first time, I didn't do it out of this hole, but let's see how we, let me put the lid on this. I do not want to knock that over. So I guess it's a matter of put it on, but don't shake it off for an hour. I want to make sure I get all the spots where the adhesive is. We may only be able to do 2 pieces. What we might do is do this in the other piece, not the resin piece. Ugh. And it doesn't say anything about tapping this down or anything like that, so I'm not going to recommend that. That's hard on my hand. I'm thinking what I might have, I don't think I did it this way the last time. I think I just opened the top of the bottle and poured. And I guess depending on, you could put, whatchamacallit, a face mask on. Because it is fairly fine dust. Well, I don't want to, I shouldn't call it dust, should I? It's not dust. Whatever this stuff is made of, which I don't know. All right. So I'm going to have to tilt this because, well, I should see. Maybe I can set it like that. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we'll let that sit, and then we'll do this one. And then I might, if I still have some left, I'll do the resin piece just off camera. And then we can see how all three turn out. And another tip I have for you, I always find when I did this the first time I was going over the side, but what I tend to do is just put on and cover one side and then come over and do the other side. So I'm not hopefully going over the edge when I do it that way, because the brush is just going straight on the one side, if that makes, hopefully that makes sense. So turn it, and then we're just coming over this side, so there's less likelihood of the paint going over the edges, because you're going with the side, and that's, I didn't do that the first time. I just kind of went wherever with my paintbrush, and I didn't want to do that. All right. So I think what I am going to do with this one is to save some effort. Oh, there's still tons of this stuff in here, so it's better to spray it out the way you do, so you don't accidentally, you know, dump the bottle out. If the I kind of wish the hole on the top were a little bit bigger. It would make it easier. I don't know. I guess I could try and make it bigger. Just as an FYI, I did go online and comment about the holder that I made in the last video, and the company that had sold the product, not the company that made it, but the company that I bought the product through, had commented about making a support for the piece that actually holds like the bottles you're going to be putting in that stand. And I've made a makeshift. It's not a very good makeshift, but I did ask, or, you know, recommend that maybe they could let the manufacturer know that having them supply a box or something would be ever so helpful, so that we as the consumer, the end user, doesn't have to do that. And I only say that because, I mean, I know there are other companies out there that, I mean, they provide the box and whatnot, so it'd be nice if this manufacturer did. Okay, now because we have lots of that flocks left in the bottle, I am going to do this piece as well. And the bottom of this one looks a lot better now that it's got a second coat on it. Okay. Let's put that there. Let's just set this aside. Oops. Yep, got the right one. I was thinking I'm putting the wrong lid on this. All right. Okay, now before I do this, I can feel some of the paint on the side. And you may be able to clean this paint. Like if you got the paint on the side, you may be able to clean that off even after, like if you use soap and water. trying to get this stuff out of here. See if I can get my in camera. Yeah. See if there's some easier way. I'm gonna make a bigger hole in the top of these bottles because I don't want to dump it all out, but I definitely want to be able to get it out easier. Like the hole in the top of that isn't very big. And I'll give you one other little tip once I get this done in regards to this white piece of paper I've put down. Because this should get all covered up and then I can go back over, eh? The things in life that make you concentrate. We're almost there. Alright, I think we've pretty much got it good. Just covering in some of the spots that look a little lighter. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're just going to let this sit now. Okay, so they said to let it sit. Okay, so while second coat of adhesive is wet, apply flux, allow to dry for 1 hour, shake off excess powder, and put back into the bottle. All right, so we're gonna let this sit. We'll come back, we'll shake it off, but I am gonna let these sit for 24 hours after that before I rub the bottom. Just like I said, because with this red one I had done, even after I'd shook it off, like I was wiping it, I think, too soon. So I don't want to do that with these. So I'll wait the hour. We'll, knock the stuff off, and then we'll let it sit for 24 hours. And then we'll do the swipe test, if you will. So that's it. I'm going to clean up my paintbrush, and we will be back shortly. Oh, right, before I forget, as I'm looking at it. So anyone who does embossing, there's this static pad you can get. And when you pour your embossing powder, they recommend swiping this over your paper first. So basically, for anyone who's not used to it, so whether you're doing a card or whatever, and I even swipe where my embossing powder is going to land after I put it on my card, you just wipe this paper with this, and it's supposed to take the static out so that when we pour this back in, this stuff isn't stuck to my piece of paper. So that's just a little tip. It's used mainly, well, as far as I know, for embossing powders, but there may be other uses for it. And I just thought, well, if it works for embossing powder, I'll swipe this over top of this so that this powder doesn't get stuck to the piece of paper, and then I lose some of it. Anyway, we'll be back shortly. It is time to knock this stuff off. And then probably what I'll do is, not today, I'll wait the 24 hours that I think I need to wait. And then any that's gotten around the sides and whatnot, I will very carefully use one of my paintbrushes to just kind of get the excess off the sides. And then we'll do a bit of a swipe test with my fingers to see how this turns out. So I'm just kind of wondering which one I grab first. So I think I'm going to grab this one. And then we'll just tap it, tap, tappity tap. I think that's something Tim Holtz says. I don't watch Tim Holtz all the time, but I do have to admit I like some of the stuff that he comes up with. All right. Okay, so that's how it looks right now, which is similar to the green one you've already seen. I don't want to swipe my hand on now, and what I'm kind of thinking of is that because of the amount of product that was on top of this, if we were to swipe it now, yes, it's been sitting for an hour. I don't think there's a way of going over top of this a second time if you know, unless you were to sort of sand it down and then start from scratch again. So because there was a layer of this stuff on top of here, I want to leave it for 24 hours now, just so that, you know, if there's any moisture still under this from what was on top of it, I want it to set up. I want it to set up properly. So let's just dampen that. Well, not dampen. No, that's not. I'm just going to put this off to the side. All right. Do that. And then I'm carefully going to grab this one. And because of this being resin, it's sticking. And when I say sticking, it's just the flux that's sticking to the side. And for me, like I said at the beginning, I kind of like the idea that if this, you know, will work well enough to, I want to hit this with something, to use it for stuff that's going to go on either a glass table or a wooden table. Now I'm looking at this one, and maybe it's the paint strokes and I'm sort of seeing through it. I feel like this didn't set on here as well, but it could just be my eyesight that's playing tricks on me. But like when I tilt it, it does look nice and covered. All right. So there we go, that one. Get it off my hands. Again, you may want to wear a face mask when you're working with this stuff because it is a fine product. I'm being careful not to hit the bottom. And that's what that one looks like. This one doesn't look perfect either, and I may have to get a foam paintbrush to do a bit of a more even coat, because my first coat wasn't very even, and I think part of what I'm seeing under here is the marks from my paintbrush. And I don't know if you're able to see that or not in here. So let me just get this proper. So sort of up in here, like my strokes with my paintbrush weren't very good. So that's maybe something I need to do better in the future, is to ensure that I get a nice even coat without the brush strokes in it. You know, that may mean that I add more of the paint on the very first go. Okay, we're gonna let these sit for 24 hours. I'm trying to think of where I can put this safely. And it's off to the side now. So we're gonna let that sit for the 24 hours, and I want to see as I spread this stuff all over the place. So I don't want to touch anything. So let's just get this. And you may end up losing stuff. And one of the things I should have done before I even did this is I should have folded this in half. I do that with my embossing powders. I usually split this, like fold this piece of paper in half, so I have a nice split, not a split, a nice ridge down the center of it. And hopefully we get this in without too much effort. Yeah, I really wish I'd done that. That would have made this much better. So I don't know if I can trying to fold it a little bit. See, it makes a difference when it's folded. I do want to say that it does make this easier when it's folded. So let's see if I can get this in here without making too much of a mess. Without making too much of a mess, Natalie. Just a little bit more left up in there. Not too bad. So let me get a wet wipe out and clean that up. I mean, I don't mind losing a little bit of it. That's not a big deal to me. Right. Okay, let me wipe this. I am making quite the mess of this mat. Okay, what I want to do now is properly fold this down now. All right. There's not much left inside of this. I should have wiped that too. I guess it doesn't matter just yet. And then what I do, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but I'll tap it on the bottle. So that gets a little bit more of it out. I'm not going to get it all out. And sometimes what I do is I'll use a brush to kind of knock the remnants. So there's some remnants in here. So I would just take, I've got another brush in the other room that if I'm working with different colors, I'd wipe this out first before starting with another color. So that's just another tip if you're going to do this. So I'm actually just going to use this to clean that up. All right, so that's that done, and we can get that out of the way, and you just stay put there. Get one more paper towel or wet wipe, and then we'll wipe this up, get this all cleaned up. And that's all we're going to do for right now. We're just going to let this sit now for the 24 hours. And then we'll do the and yeah, it was something like I said, it's something I saw. I thought it might be an interesting product to get. And, you know, trying it out gives you the opportunity to decide if it's something that you'd like to, you know, to try for yourself. Do you have stuff that, you know, do you care? I guess it comes down to, like, is it a big deal whether or not the bottom of a piece is, you know, covered up or not? I have a little bit of an issue with trying to use cork to get it, you know, fitted just right. And I don't want to put that there. So we have cork that you could use. I've used foam. I've gotten on Michael's 2 little thin foam pieces to put on the bottom. Like, there are different things you can use. I just thought this looked a little elegant, and it might be a new and cool way to do. And as I say, the biggest thing was when we take our hands over this, you don't want to be able to take off the product, because if you can, then it's sort of pointless to have it. But I'm hoping with the, you know, 24 hours that when we go to do that, it'll be fine. So let me know in the comments what you think so far, and if this is something you could see yourself using, if you think it's a good idea. And I think the biggest thing you may want to, you know, what makes it a good idea is as long as the stuff stays on the bottom. And that's the ticket for me. Anyway, I am going to let you carry on with whatever. We'll be back momentarily for you, and we'll see what happens after 24 hours. I'll see you then. Are you ready to see how this turned out? So I haven't cleaned off. Let me get this piece of paper cleaned off, because we'll use this as sort of our spot to check for the rubbing off, which I'm not expecting it to. but I just want to have something clean down there. So let me just get my angel and this piece off to the side. So one thing I was thinking about was in regard to, you would not want to get this stuff wet, or at least in my estimation, that would be something you wouldn't want to do. So you'll have to decide, like if you decide to use this stuff, then keep in mind, how are you going to clean the piece that you've put it on, if you're going to clean it. So for example, I think of my coaster here, and I want to clean up around the sides of that, and we'll get to that. But you're going to have to sort of take in mind, is this something I'm going to want to clean? If it is, I'm going to have to be, you know, aware of the fact that, as far as I would understand, that you wouldn't want to get this stuff wet on the back, because I don't know what would happen to it. And I don't really want to experiment with that to see what's going to happen. So keep that in mind. That was something that just sort of popped into my mind before I started this video up again. And I think of this piece more specifically than the coaster, but this piece as well. I'm just going to set it right down like that. Because of what you're using it for, is the bottom, does it have the potential of getting wet? Or you're just going to have to be more careful with the piece. So that's something, the wetness is something I would want to keep in mind. So I'm definitely going to have to clean around the sides of this, because it's got some of the flocks on it. So let's just put these down. Let's just set them down and we'll lift them up. Okay, so I've got some that's come off of this. So let's just wipe this, because really it shouldn't come off. Like if you wipe it, and the video that I had seen on YouTube showing this, this stuff should not come off. Now I am getting some off. Ooh, I'm getting quite a bit off of that. Well, I did brush my hand over top of it. They didn't. So when they had shown the video on YouTube, they hadn't, you know, they sort of rubbed their hands on it a little bit, but not much. And I did question that in the video, but no one's gotten back to me on that. So let's, okay, I am wiping that off. Okay, so we know we've gotten some off of that, which is kind of unfortunate. So I don't know if I've done something wrong. Like I'm not getting a lot off of it. So let's go on to the other two pieces. Like I love the idea of this. I also appreciate that we have to make sure that the stuff is going to stick. So as you can see over here, I've got some, can you see that? Hopefully you can. Yeah, okay. Back here. So let's just, yeah, I'm banging on the wrong place. I shouldn't be doing. So we've got it there as well. And this is sat for pretty much 24 hours. Maybe not exactly 24, but close enough. So I want to make sure my hands are clean. Okay. So it's interesting that, okay, so my finger's clean. You can see that, right? Okay, I got a little bit off that time. Like I'm getting a little bit off of it. I'm not getting a lot off of it. So, and I mean, I'm not rubbing hard, so please understand. I'm not just going like really harsh on this. I'm just running my finger over top of it. So I am getting a little bit off. Okay, so let's put that back down over here. Just place it down like that. And pick it up. So it's interesting, it's coming like on the paper. So let's try it on my not so clean mat here. So maybe it's a paper thing. That sounds really odd to me, but maybe it's a paper thing. Because I'm not really getting it down on this mat. I'm trying to think what else I got around here that I could try it on. I know, we'll try. Because you'll be able to see it, hopefully, on this. So give me a moment. There's a little bit of... get that out of the way. Just get it out of the way. No, it's not coming off on that. So it's interesting. Maybe it's the paper. Maybe there's something with the paper that's causing it to come up. I mean, I am getting some off. I mean, I have to admit, I am getting some off of it. I might have to go back and actually send a message via the website to them just to find out. So let's just stick this down. Okay, so we're still getting some stuff off of this one. I can see it. Let me lift this up to the camera. Let's see, get a little closer if you can see the green on that. So let's wipe it off. I'm going to have to reach out to Folkart and ask him some questions about this, because I followed the directions based on what's on the... Now I'm looking all over my hands. This is just silly. It's like, is there green on it? So let's just do a swipe test on that. Yeah, so I am getting a little bit. Hopefully you can see that, and I'm not just taking my finger out of the camera view. So I'll do my whole hand this time, or all my fingers. Yeah, so there's very little on there. And I don't know if that's part of the deal, is that you're supposed to, you know, well, that wouldn't make sense. Can you imagine having to do that over top of something? No, I can't. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. Okay, but it's still coming off on here. I'm gonna have to send an email off to them and ask them about that. I wonder if it's got something to do with, I don't know. Seem odd to me. Like, depending on what your surface is like, as to whether or not you get stuff off on it or not. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm just going back to my pumpkin here still feels smooth. You know, I'm getting a little bit of the red off on that. I'm going to have to go back to them. I had hoped that this was going to work out a little bit better than what it sort of is. So I'm going to have to send them off a message and hopefully hear back from them. Yeah, so I've got, where is it? Got my hand back in here. On these two fingers and a little bit on the third. So it is pulling some of this stuff off. I still think it's a really cool idea once we, you know, sort of break it down. And again, I don't know whether it's because I'm not putting enough on. I've been letting it sit. I've let it sit for the amount of time it needed to. So yeah, I'm going to have to, like, if there's a trick that I'm missing with this. Because I don't know. So I'm going to put some pressure on this now and see what happens. So, I mean, I'll admit I'm getting some off, but I'm not getting off as much as I thought I might have. So let's do that again. So just using these two fingers. Yeah, so I'm applying a fair bit of pressure on that. I wonder if it'd be worthwhile, like, once you put the flocks on, sort of bang it off and then put some more on. But I'll go back and I'll send an email off to the company. And I'll, you know, say I watched the video online. I followed the directions on the bottles. You know, how do we avoid this stuff falling off, you know, after the 24-hour period? So I'll look into that, and it'll probably be in a future video that I, you know, cover that for you, just to let you know, because I want to get this video up so you can see it. And I'll just, again, because I like to ask the questions, if you've used this and you have a tip and or trick, or, you know, you've dealt with it and you know what I'm doing incorrectly, because it could be user error, right? I'm willing to accept that. But again, I still think it's a really cool idea. It's just a matter of now figuring out how do we avoid anything coming off the bottom of this? Because it'd be really cool. Like you can see, or maybe you can't, I'm not sure about the camera, but I mean, I did a really poor job on the bottom of this one with, you know, my brush strokes and all of that. And maybe there wasn't enough on it in general. I don't know. Anywho, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Even though we're not working out exactly as I had hoped, as far as not being able to rub stuff off or stuff just coming off on its own. We can see that it's not necessarily the paper that's, you know, the issue. But I'm just going to do a lot of pressure on that one. Yeah, see, it's interesting, right? Sometimes you get, you know, and sometimes you don't. I don't get the deal. I don't get the deal. So what I want to do is, I'm just going to put this on here. We're going to do one last thing, and then I'm going to end this video. Yeah, so when I scrape that, I mean, not putting a lot of pressure, but just pushing that across, and we get some of the product off. So yeah, I am going to send an email to Folkart. I'm going to ask them about this and how to avoid this stuff coming off, because it's kind of like, what's the point if it's gonna rub off of the bottom of the pieces? Anyway, so another video, another experiment, not going exactly as planned. I want to plug in my camera because it's going to run out. So if you've tried it, please comment below. If you've seen other videos on this, I would love to know about those, because I'll go watch them, and, you know, perhaps I am doing something incorrectly in this. I will reach out to Folkart. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a subscriber, commenting on the videos, following me. I really do enjoy doing this video, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Get creative. Have a great day, and bye for now.